So, this is our brand new episode of the Ukrainian CEO podcast show, and today I'm honored to introduce my new guest, Ryan Henley. Hello, Ryan, and nice to meet you, and thanks for coming for our new episode.
Yeah, Vol, thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here, and it's great to meet you, and looking forward to a conversation.
Cool, Ryan, can you please tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I am the CEO of an independent insurance agency. So for your non-US listeners, when someone buys insurance, they have a bunch of different options in the United States, and particularly when they own a business. So what I do is provide commercial insurance solutions to business owners, and we do it throughout the entire United States. So even Alaska and Hawaii, and we have 23 people nationwide. And I've been in the insurance industry for 17 years. How I got here is an interesting story. I will try to take what could be probably hours of conversation and break them down in just a few minutes, not to bore your audience. But basically, I've been in the insurance industry for 17 years. The first 8 of those years, I was a boots on the ground salesperson. I was walking to business. I was cold calling people. I was cold emailing people. It was really like a grind. It was every day. You're just kind of grinding it out. You don't see really a lot of big wins. And I learned the traditional way of doing business, which again, in the United States is really based. Most insurance agencies really just work maybe 15, 20 miles from wherever they're located. And their value proposition is local, community, that kind of stuff. And that's great, except it's very difficult to scale that model. You're really limited by whatever community your business is located around. If you're in a big city, you can obviously grow much bigger than you can, say, if you're in the country and you just have less people, less businesses to sell to. So what we did, I was there for 8 years. I wasn't a family member of that business. So basically, the owners of that business came to me one day and basically said, so you will never own this business. You'll never have a shot at earning in or buying into equity in the business. And at 30 or 31, whatever I was at that time, that was a completely unacceptable answer. I'd put in a lot of good time, and not that I was like looking for any handouts, but if you're ambitious and you're hardworking, like you want to know that there's more for you if you achieve certain goals. I certainly didn't want anything handed to me, but I wanted to know there was an opportunity for more. And when I found out there wasn't, I resigned within the next 2 months, and I took the job as a CMO, a chief marketing officer, for a national insurance technology company. And I did that for 4 years. It was a wonderful experience. Accumulated a team underneath me of about 30 people. Really learned to be an entrepreneur, learned what it meant to be an executive, learned about high-level business development. Unfortunately, I ended up being fired from that job because for a few different reasons, but the long and short of it was a big bureaucratic business. It was very kind of corporate driven. And like I said, I had an entrepreneurial mindset, and I was constantly butting heads with them. I constantly wanted to do more. I constantly wanted to try things that they just didn't want to try. And that relationship just kind of hit a head. I then went and became CMO of another insurance technology company, which was great. That wasn't really a good fit from the beginning. I worked there for about a year, and decided that with 2 little kids at home, I couldn't travel anymore for work. I was traveling all over the United States. I've been in about 40 different states at this point, and it was taking a lot of time away from my family. I promise I'll get to the point here. So I left that job. I kind of had worn my wife out at the time. I'd worn her out. I was traveling 3-4 times a week. I had a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and it just wasn't working. So I took a job as the CEO of a local fitness franchise, because after insurance, probably the next thing I'm the most interested in is fitness. I love physical fitness, and we could talk about how your health and physical fitness impacts your ability to be a great leader and a great entrepreneur. But and I thought this was the next best thing. I didn't want to leave the insurance industry, but if I couldn't be in the insurance industry, and Albany, New York, the capital of New York State here in the U.S., is not a big city, even though it's the capital of New York State. Most people think New York City, 8 million people. Albany has like 100,000 people. Like, there's just not that many people, here in Albany. So there wasn't really a big insurance scene for me to come back to. So I took this fitness job, and that was great. In 9 months, I doubled the size of the membership. I had a great team working. We were growing. We were adding new locations. I really thought, like, okay, if I'm not going to be in insurance, this is wonderful. At that point, the founder of the business decided that he wanted to come back in. And as a CEO, I was his biggest expense. So he fired me. Just one day, I just blindsided. I walked in. I thought we were just having a standard meeting. He walks in with his lawyer and fires me and just says, hey, you did a great job, but I want to be the CEO again. And if I'm the CEO, you can't be here. And out the door I went. And that, having kind of 4 negative experiences right in a row in about a 5 or 6 year period, just, it was like, I just it felt like the universe was telling me, you need to go out and be your own boss. Like, you obviously working for someone else is not working out too well. And that's when I kind of decided I was going to do my own thing. I wanted to go back to the insurance industry, and I started my commercial insurance agency, Rogue Risk, on March 9th of 2020.
Great journey. Can you please tell us your strategy from the day one you launched Rogue Risk and until the acquisition of the company? How did you find the product market fit, first customer? Can you please elaborate on that?
Yes. So I got into when I first was starting to kind of map out Rogue. So I got fired from the fitness company. That was in October, and I didn't launch Rogue till March. So it took me about 5 months to get everything together. And during that time, you're doing what any entrepreneur does, right? You're kind of mapping out ideas. You're putting core concepts down, core values. You're mapping out your business. You're putting a business plan together. And the first thing that I wrote down was this idea of a human optimized agency. What I mean by that is there's really 2 sides to the insurance industry, and really 2 sides to just about any industry. There's the traditional side, hand-to-hand combat. Everything is done face-to-face, in person, very local driven, very traditional mindset, a lot of paper, a lot of things done offline. And the beauty of that side of any business is that it is an incredible way to build trust and a connection to your clients, right? There's nothing better than breathing the same air to get a client to buy into what you're doing. However, it is very difficult to scale a business of that size, and it's very difficult with a business such as that on the traditional side to compete with, say, a larger budget, maybe franchise style, a well-funded competitor. It can be tough to compete. So what I did is I said, I want to take the best aspects of the traditional way that this business is done. And this works for any industry, not just insurance. And I want to take the best versions or the best aspects of the digital version of insurance, and I want to marry them together. And basically what I realized is that the humans in our business were doing a lot of tasks that didn't add value, but were taking up their time. So I launched a fully remote agency. Even though we're headquartered here in Albany, New York, I have 23 people spread throughout the entire United States. In all 4 time zones. There's 4 time zones in the US, and we're spread throughout all of them. And except for the Northwest, like Washington State, Oregon, and all the quadrants and sections. So we have people in the Midwest and upper Midwest, Southeast, etc. So that gives us really good spread, really good team. And what it allows us to do is not have a fixed cost of having a heavy burden of, say, like having an office space. It allows us to really play off economies of scale, because we're just, really, when we add a new team member, it's just a few memberships to websites and tools that they need to do their job. So it keeps costs low. And then we use automation, self-service tools. We are getting very close to looking into virtual assistants. And then we have our licensed kind of in the States American workers, which is required because insurance is a regulated product. It's like a financial service, like if you're doing investments or something. So you need to have licensed American, people who are sitting here in the States do some tasks. It's just regulated by the states. So by using this scaled system, we are able to allow our customers to kind of choose their own adventure. And to get to your question, that was really our competitive advantage from day one. We wanted to deliver that enterprise level, white gloves, in-person service that people want out of a relationship with their insurance professional. But we wanted to do that in a scaled digital format. And that has been our bread and butter from day one, coupled with a really solid education first content marketing campaign. We have one of the largest YouTube channels for all for in the insurance industry. We have a very robust website. We put a lot of educational content out in social media. We do a lot of outreach, and it's all based around educate our customers first, draw them in, and then give them this human optimized experience. So once they're in, they feel taken care of, they feel understood, and they feel heard.
Cool. Can you please share with us tools, software you use for self-service and to establish automation in your business processes?
Yeah, so a lot of the tools that we use are very specific to the U.S. insurance market. You know, being that insurance is a regulated industry, there's just a lot of wacky things, data you have to collect. And sure, some insurance agencies do hack their way through, say, a HubSpot or a Salesforce or a Pipedrive or some of these other kind of CRM or sales tools. But at the end of the day, the accounting in the insurance industry is very unique. It's actually, you have to run a dual cash and accrual accounting system at the same time, which is tricky. There's just a lot of odd things. So we have some proprietary, not proprietary to us, but proprietary to the industry technology that we use that probably no one listening would even heard of. But then, you know, we use RingCentral for our phone system. So that's kind of a global system. We have tested on and off Podium, which is a text message, chat to text tool, allows you to do some stuff with reviews. But to be honest with you, we try to keep our tech tool set as simple as we possibly can, because what I found is a lot of companies, in an effort to add value, keep stacking on new tools that they never actually fully utilize, and therefore never actually deliver the full value to their customer base. So my philosophy has been, use a smaller number of tools, but use them really well. And even if there's some things that you're not doing today that like you would like to, say, I don't know, some sort of local pin drop text system or automated review, aggregation system or whatever. There's a lot of like amazing tech that you can use. Instead of like just trying to implement all these different things and never really doing it well, we've tried to focus in on the things that drive the most value for us, kind of the 80-20 rule, and do those things well. So our tech stack, relative to say a standard, say SaaS or e-commerce business, is probably relatively small.
Okay, I understand. And also, I noticed a video on your YouTube channel where you said you have your own SaaS platform, RockX. Have you ever tried to develop your own software for your needs, or to start selling to other agents, or you're just using SaaS off-the-shelf software?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So we have built the proprietary software that we've built is really like a custom Zapier, which has allowed us to kind of manage our data flow between off-the-shelf systems. So again, I don't want to build software just to build software. I think that if my business is not to be a tech business, it's to massively grow our insurance book. We are an insurance agency. So where I can use off the shelf tech, customize it to our needs, and then what I was kind of our first play to keep costs down, because the cost of building your own tech is very large, and people don't. I think a lot of times founders want to get to building their own tech very fast, and they spend time and effort building things that they don't need. Right now, if your goal is to be a tech company, you got to build tech. But if your goal is to be a scaled insurance agency, building tech is actually an anchor, not a sale. And for that reason, we've tried to use off the shelf. What we did find was that all the off the shelf tech that we needed or wanted to use didn't talk to each other very well. So the one thing that we have built is, and this is in partnership with a development company, so we don't have internal engineers, but they helped us build this custom. It's like basically think of Zapier, but custom to our business. So we can plug things in one time, but push the data in and out of these systems to all our other systems as needed. And that has been a huge boon to our business.
Are you still using it, or was it a successful project?
Yeah. Yep. Yes. Yeah. Very successful. And we continue, as we what it has allowed us to do is now take on more systems because there's not as much kind of legwork of retyping information in or having to do exports and imports and all this kind of stuff. It's the data is just talking to each other, and it has allowed our people to work faster and deliver more value back to our customers.
Okay. What are the biggest challenges you see establishing automation using all these tools? You have already mentioned the communication between all these systems. That's why you developed your own software. What other challenges do you see? What are the hardest to tackle?
Yeah, the biggest challenge that we face from a technology standpoint is that the insurance industry in general is very behind. So these tools that are, standard tools in the insurance industry, the data is set up poorly. They're often using multiple databases, multiple code bases. They don't load properly. They don't update properly. Their APIs are often terrible, break often, or just can't push all the necessary data back and forth. They're just very archaic. If you're sitting there listening to this and you're used to using like a Salesforce or a HubSpot or any other of these large CRM database systems that you kind of run businesses off of, you most likely can't even imagine how archaic the insurance systems are. But because of the wacky nature of the accounting inside the insurance industry and the way policy data has to be collected and stored, we're forced to use these. So from a technology standpoint, the biggest challenge are these legacy systems that we're forced to use and getting information in and out of them. Other than that, from a technology standpoint, there's not really obstacles. It's just the standard stuff that everyone deals with. It's, what activities do we need to prioritize in order to deliver max value to our customers? And how do we do that in a way where we're not overextending ourselves and creating risk where it's unnecessary? And that, to me, is the place that I see the most often see founders start to fall apart, is in their race to constantly add new features, new gimmicks, new schemes to their business. They get way out over their skis, or they get overextended in projects or just simply in brain cycles. They're just thinking about too many things. Core functions start to slip through the cracks, and then the business starts to struggle. So I think that patience, which is not one of my virtues. I don't want anyone listening to think that I'm somehow this like incredibly patient person. I'm not. All I want to do is go, go, go. I'm an entrepreneur like everyone else. But having learned and practiced, trying to make patience a practice and thoughtfulness a practice, we really try to set reasonable timelines. We try to be very intentional with any new tools or technology that we bring in. Okay, man. So just to recap, the biggest challenge that we face is that there are proprietary technology systems in the insurance industry that you have to use in order to meet regulatory compliance. And they are not 2023 technology. They just don't connect. They don't push data. And that just makes everything a challenge. There are workarounds, and that's why we built that kind of universal connector system. But it's not easy, and it's extra work that you have to do.
Can you please share with us your strategy on the content marketing? I know you have a large YouTube channel, and in one of your videos, you said you have the majority of your leads coming from this channel before your acquisition.
Yep.
Before your company was acquired. I know a lot of folks who are making hundreds of videos per year, but get just a few views and no sales or unqualified leads from this channel. Can you please elaborate on this? What's your success strategy?
So we really employ there's really two core concepts. So if you're familiar with Marcus Sheridan, his book They Ask You Answer, we use that strategy, which is basically we take common questions that people ask about insurance and we just answer them in plain language. I think that what makes our channel work is that it's very authentic. It's most of the time just me standing in front of the camera answering a question. I don't edit it out, within reason. I'm not editing out ums and ahs. I'm not editing out little contextual sidebars that I may take. I try to boil what is a fairly complex product and insurance down into language that people can understand and use. And I don't pound them over the head with sales stuff. I don't, I'm not constantly trying to sell people. It's, hey, if I finish every video with a very simple call to action. I kind of look at the camera and I say, if this is the kind of relationship that you want with your insurance agent, meaning an agent who's going to explain things to you, who's going to care about you, who thinks deeply about coverage, and all that kind of stuff, then we'd love to work with you. And that's it. And then I give them, some places they can go to actually get a quote. I think the mistake a lot of people make is they're just constantly selling, and it's all either overproduced or it's very impersonal, or they read some way to create 100 videos in a month and get them out, and like all that gimmicky nonsense. It doesn't work. Like you have to actually care about what you're doing. You have to actually care about the people that you're serving, and that will come through. People can smell someone who's just trying to create a business and doesn't actually care about their clients. They can smell it. They can feel it. It's tangible. And we all know it. We've all seen it. We've all seen people and they're doing a video and maybe even what they're sharing is interesting or informative, but you're looking at it going, just doesn't feel right. I can tell they're doing this, but it's a template. There are best practices. There are things obviously that you have to do to be successful. And there are certainly ways to amplify. But at the end of the day, if you don't honestly care about the people that you're sharing information with and sharing information to, if you're not actually trying to provide value first before you extract value, you have no shot at being successful. It's just not going to happen. So I think, what we get the most in terms of feedback is like, I can tell that you care, and people ask tons of questions and I answer them. I respond to all the comments, and I have these like long drawn out conversations with people in the comments on YouTube just about the different questions they have. And I think that people see that, they see the comments, and it all just kind of adds up. But if you're not fully invested, if you don't actually care about the information you're sharing, people will smell it and they'll just move on to the next video. It's we can't over templatize our business.
Yeah, I think it also depends on the industry and also the skill to find for what topics your audience is searching for. Because I think that many of those who is not successful on YouTube, they just do content that they think is reasonable without any prior research.
Yeah. I mean, so I use a tool called Ahrefs, ahrefs.com.
No.
And I do a shit ton of keyword research. I mean, I'm constantly trying to figure out, so I'll say, okay, one of our specialties, there's an insurance coverage, again, I'm speaking specifically about the US market. There's insurance coverage called workers' compensation. And basically it deals with employees who get injured. Okay. That part doesn't matter. But that coverage in particular is something that we have an expertise in our business. So I could just randomly come up with workers' compensation topics and post videos about them, or I could go to Ahrefs and do some dig down into what are the actual questions, how are they phrasing them, where are the opportunities, who's ranking really high for what keywords, what ideas, what concepts, and how can we find gaps in between those topics? Can we go with something that's maybe a little more long tail and say create 3 different videos on a topic that have long tail keywords versus trying to wedge our way in the top level keyword? There's all different kinds of content strategies, and we can nerd out on that if you want. So I completely agree with you. Just flying by the seat of your pants is not the right way to go. You just don't want to over engineer it. Again, if I didn't care about delivering value through my insurance product, then all the keyword research in the world, it still wouldn't hit. However, because I want to share, because I want to help people, I want to give them these tools, then when I go and I dissect and I come up with 5 headlines that are going to allow me to rank fairly quickly and fairly high for I particularly like long tail keywords at first. You get less traffic, but you get more targeted traffic. And so just if we want to nerd out on this for a second, there's, thinking simply about how we look at keywords and how we approach these things. So let's say I was to take the top level keyword. We'll get away from insurance because it's so nerdy. We'll think about something like a t-shirt company. Let's say you had a t-shirt company and you're doing a YouTube channel about it, right? And your t-shirt company was, you come up with some quirky brand and people can do print on demand, and it's got all, famous characters from both, foreign and domestic TV shows and, whatever pop culture in your particular country or area or whatever audience you're trying to serve, right? So, and you want to, let's say it's motivational t-shirts. Let's say that's your jam. It's motivational t-shirts. So you could rank for motivational t-shirts. You could go after that keyword, but every keyword, every t-shirt company in the world is going to try to rank for, say, motivational t-shirts, right? Because that's a big top level keyword. But the interesting part about it is people who are actually searching for the term motivational keyword t-shirts are oftentimes going to be at the very beginning of their purchasing journey. So that's a top level keyword. Yes, it's important to rank for brand recognition over time, but if you're just starting out, going after that keyword, you're going to hit the first page. YouTube is not going to suggest you. Google is not going to suggest you because there's 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 other companies trying to rank for that same keyword. So instead, what we did was we went long tail right away. So maybe it's whatever. Maybe your title is 10 motivational t-shirts that when you see yourself in the morning in the mirror get you jacked out of your mind, right? Maybe that's the title of your video. And then you're showing these, you're flashing a picture of whoever said the quote next to your t-shirt in like a 360 spin view with some like inspirational music. And that's your video, right? Like that's a tremendous promo video. And people are looking at the shirts going, oh shit, I love that quote. Or, hey, I read that book. That's amazing. Or man, my team it would be really cool if we went on a retreat as a team, in our company and had those shirts on because everyone would be jacked up. And like, that's a long tail way of going after something, or maybe you do, maybe you break down what the meaning behind that quote is and what different people have thought about that quote. So maybe literally the title of the video is the quote and the word motivational t-shirt, and then you're doing like a 3-minute video on the quote itself about the quote, and you don't even show your t-shirt until the very end and say, hey, if this gets you jacked out of your mind, buy the t-shirt and wear it tomorrow, click our link, whatever. So like going after these long tail bottom of the funnel keywords where people are like, if someone's searching for a specific quote in the word t-shirt, they're looking to buy, right? They want that quote on a t-shirt, and that would be much easier to rank for than say just the top level motivational t-shirts. So that very long, technical, hopefully not boring explanation is how we were able to get traction very, very quickly. Is we did not waste time going after top level keywords. We just created a massive amount of content on all these long tail keywords. And what they did was just stack up views over time.
That's smart. And you also spend time to put all these keywords in your YouTube video description, or you just create a video on this topic and
yeah. So what we'll do is we'll use a tool like rev.com, which is another SaaS tool, plug the YouTube video in, get the transcript, and then copy and paste the transcript into the description or a portion of the transcript in the description, depending on how long it is. We've tested all kinds of stuff like that. I think the descriptions are important. I think timestamps and chapters are really important these days on YouTube. They can definitely help boost, especially like in that description I gave where you had the 10 different t-shirts, like the 10 best motivational t-shirts or whatever. If each t-shirt was a chapter, that would be that would help that video rank, because they're basically using it as subheads. They're using the chapters as subheads to rank videos. So there's a lot of like, you can get very nerdy on the tactics and stuff, but I think the big idea is find long tail keywords, which oftentimes equate to bottom of the funnel, ready to purchase moments, and go after those first and just batch record a shit ton of them. And you will, you'll see, you're not going to see you probably won't see one particular video get a ton of traffic, but what you'll see is the people who are going to that video are highly likely to purchase. And that's obviously, in my opinion, much more important than just the vanity metric of pure views.
Can you please tell us more about the acquisition of your company? Why did you decide to sell the company? And what are your main takeaways after the first year of being in partnership with the company that acquired you?
Yeah, so we launched on March 9th of 2020, 7 days before COVID hit New York State. So 7 days in, I got, close to $50,000 of my own money into this business. And all of a sudden, the entire world gets shut down, and I start freaking out. And it was very, very difficult. Our initial plan was to be a digital middle market agency. So think larger, kind of not enterprise level businesses and not small businesses, but that middle area. Think 10 to 100 million in revenue. That was originally what we were going to go after. Well, all those businesses are shut down and none of them are picking up the phone. So I had to really course correct very early. Small businesses, kind of mom and pops, say 5 million and under revenue, most of which are probably 750 to 500,000 in revenue or under businesses. They had to stay open because this is their only income. Like they didn't have a war chest. I mean, they had to do what they had to do to survive. So those people were still out there. So I quickly pivoted from middle market to small business. And we went into YouTube because no one could meet in person because COVID had everything shut down. So that digital strategy is really what COVID really drove the velocity of that digital strategy. Okay, so we started building. We rapidly expanded nationally because doing the digital marketing allowed us to do that. It allowed us to scale very quick. We were having some success. And what I basically realized is if I kept out on my own, it would probably take me 8 to 10 years to hit where I wanted to be. And I was unwilling to wait that long. So I did 57 venture capital meetings and went 0 for 57. Not one of the venture capital meetings wanted to invest in us, mostly because we weren't building proprietary tech at the time. And all VC cares about is proprietary tech for the most part. So even though I was looking at like a 10x return, they weren't interested because they wanted like 1,000x return, which is, I think a reason why so many of the venture-backed businesses that you see fail is they just take these moonshot swings at businesses that I don't think actually have a legit chance of being successful. So I had to find another way to get funded. And I did not plan on selling my business 100% or being acquired. I planned on just taking investment. But when the company that ended up purchasing us, it's a PE-backed insurance roll-up, when they approached us, there was a really there was a striking fit. It was unexpected, but there was this really natural fit in the way that Rogue Risk, my business, fit into this broader kind of roll-up entity. And the role we were playing, the role I would play in both continuing in Rogue and being on the executive leadership team of the parent company as well, that was very attractive. It allowed us to hit our goals much earlier. There was still a tremendous amount of upside for me. It allowed me to get out from under having to make payroll every week or every other week, which is very difficult. All entrepreneurs are probably aware of that. And it gave us the ability to get to where we wanted to be in, say, 3 to 5 years versus 8 to 10. And I like the people a lot. And the decision made sense. It wasn't what I was expecting, but it made sense. And I'm happy I've done it. We've gotten to move very fast. When we were acquired, we were at 7 people, and a year later, we're at 23. A year later, a year from now, we may even double our employee base again. So it's a super exciting time, and I'm very happy that I made that decision. While, like I said, it was unexpected.
So you said this acquisition will help you to achieve your goals much faster. Can you please tell us what are your business dream and what are your plans for the next 5 years? Where are you heading? What is that big goal you are going for?
Yeah, so we want to get to 100 million in premium. That's a fairly large number. We're at about 5 million right now, and our goal is in 5 years to be at 100. That would be a very large jump. It would be one of the largest and fastest premium accumulations in the history of the industry without doing massive M&A, because I want to do it organically. And that would kind of put us on the map on another level. What I want to do, because I look at Rogue as like a project for the most part. Not that I ever don't want to work here, but I will I basically have a 3-year contract. And when that contract is up, I'll reevaluate where are we, what's going on, how is this working? And, I'll make the decision to stay on or not based on, kind of the contract negotiations. That being said, where I ultimately want to be and where my heart is is I love helping startups. I love helping entrepreneurs. I do a decent amount of angel investment and seed round investment as like kind of seed advisor round. I'll participate in seed rounds, not as like a major funder, but as more of an advisory board member. So I love being part of these organizations. I love helping them understand how to sidestep some of the pitfalls. I love learning about different businesses, different markets, and it's helping people achieve their entrepreneurial goals is just it's drives a lot of personal satisfaction. I love seeing the face of an entrepreneur when they pick up a topic or they integrate a process, and all of a sudden doors start to open. The cash register starts to ring. It's a pretty incredible feeling, and there's so much opportunity for entrepreneurs out there that it's really what I love to do. So my goal is to take Rogue, hit our goals, make it a success, make good on the promises that I made when we were acquired, and then leverage that to some extent into helping more entrepreneurs be successful, using my own experience as a roadmap.
Yeah, this is ambitious goal, and I wish you good luck and to achieve that. And yeah, I believe you can do this. Okay, Ryan, thank you for
Thank
coming
you.
to this podcast and sharing all your knowledge
Yes.
for YouTube marketing, for the insurance industry and technology. And also, as every podcast, I want to invite you to come to Ukraine after our victory. So
Yes.
we will go for lunch with all of our listeners, and they will tell you how they managed to go through it, applying your tips. There are some entrepreneurs from insurance industry
Yeah.
in Ukraine. I think they will listen to this podcast, and maybe some of them will launch their own YouTube channels and try your strategies in Ukraine. So thank you for all of your knowledge, and thank you.
Yeah. My pleasure, man. I appreciate you having me on. I think it's amazing what you're doing. I think it's great that you're, I'm sure you're interviewing people from inside Ukraine as well as out. I think the fact that you're bringing people from probably what is all over the world, bringing their expertise in, I think is incredible. And I give you a ton of credit for that. If people are interested in connecting or have questions about what I shared, they can reach out to me on LinkedIn. Just, find me, Ryan Hanley, on LinkedIn. And I also have a blog that I write that is really about the kind of it's leadership and entrepreneurial focused, but not necessarily on the tactics, but on the emotional, relational, and psychological side. A lot of the stuff that oftentimes is not discussed, that can be hangups in your entrepreneur and startup leadership journey. So that's at Finding Peak. So if you go to findingpeak.com, you can go there. It's a Substack, and subscribe for free. And just appreciate you, man. Wish you nothing but the best, and look forward to connecting again in the future.